Every celebrity's death becomes part of a news cycle as both the public and the media are interested in it. But the media coverage of Tamil music composer Vijay Antony's daughter's death was insensitive, triggering, and downright dangerous. Vijay Antony's daughter was not a celebrity. Now, even if she was a minor and she died by suicide. In this week's No Filter with Dhanya Rajendran, I'll discuss why the coverage by certain TV channels and online media was completely unwarranted and what these media houses should have done instead. 2 days ago, when I posted that this kind of coverage is shameful and should be questioned, a lot of people replied saying that, but this happens every time a celebrity dies. Some pointed out to Tamil actor Manobala's death and said that time too the media covered it. Yes, that is true. Every time there is a death, and specifically the death of a celebrity, which can be a movie star, a politician, a writer, poet, whoever it is, there is a lot of media coverage. Let that be Puneet Rajkumar, Umman Chandi, Innocent, SP Balasubramaniam, Vivek, or anyone for that matter. Because there is public interest about their lives, what they did, who are the people they knew, who are their friends. People like to read about it, they like to watch it. Now, how much should the media cover even when a celebrity dies is of course another matter that we can discuss some other day. But today I would like to stick to the fact that Vijay Antony's daughter was a minor and she died by suicide. This makes it a much more precarious situation where the media should have been extremely careful. For those watching from outside Tamil Nadu and do not understand what really happened, let me give you a quick summary. Music composer Vijay Antony's 16-year-old daughter died by suicide. First, a prominent Tamil news channel broke a story that Vijay Antony died. Then they discovered that the story was a mistake. Some other channels by then had said that his younger daughter died. It was actually his older daughter who had passed away. Now, by the time the channels realized who had passed away, they had made sure that their cameras were outside his house. Now, when I say cameras, it's not just TV channels anymore, right? There are so many YouTube channels too. All of them were there outside the house. For more than 24 hours, they took visuals of every single person who came, celebrity, non-celebrity, minors, teachers, family members, and reporters were constantly asking even children, her classmates who were coming, saying that, how did she feel? Did she look depressed? There was one particular incident where a reporter chases a teacher who's distraught. She's walking very fast towards the house, and the reporter asks, so this the teenager who died, was she a school leader? So teacher is like, I don't want to talk about it. But the reporter is relentless and keeps asking, and she says, yes, she was a school leader. So he says, oh, if she was a school leader, how did she die by suicide? This kind of really insensitive coverage. Now, through this show, I don't want to take names of channels and online media because too many of them did it. Some were restrained to some extent. But I have to mention this channel called News Tamil, which actually kept an audio recorder or some sort of a recorder inside the church where the funeral services were going on. They recorded the audio of the mother weeping, the mother talking about her daughter, and they played that on the channel. This is the kind of coverage which played out on the media, which has naturally angered people. All journalists have to be careful while reporting on suicides. There are very clear guidelines around this. The World Health Organization has put out guidelines. There are guidelines in India called the Spirit Guidelines. And frankly, I would say that these guidelines matter not just to journalists, but even influencers on social media. When you are going to be speaking about suicides, you have to stick to these guidelines. Now, why are there guidelines regarding how the media should cover suicides? That's because there is a real danger of copycat suicides or suicide contagion. This is not just a theory. There are many studies which have established that when the news story comes, especially of a celebrity who died by suicide, there are people who will want to copy that particular suicide, which is the reason why it is said that first thing, media cannot mention how the suicide happened, what was the method of suicide, whether somebody used poison, whatever it is, we are not supposed to mention it because that can actually trigger other people to emulate or copy this. And like I said, this is not just some unfounded theory. There are many studies over it. In fact, one of the first books to be banned was in 1774. German poet Goethe wrote a book called The Sorrows of Young Man Werther. At that time, it was banned in a couple of European countries as they felt that more young men were dying by suicide after reading this book. There are many studies which have said when Marilyn Monroe died, when Robin Williams died, the media coverage actually spurred more suicides. 13 Reasons Why, a series on teenagers. There were studies which established that after the series came out, suicides amongst teenagers rose by around 29%. And these have happened in India too. There are studies which have established that when the media covers suicide, there is the danger of copycat suicides. And imagine, this is a minor here. What is the kind of impact it has on teenagers watching it? According to the National Crime Records Bureau, between 11,000 to 13,000 teenagers die by suicide every year in India. So there is a clear danger, which is why the media has to be cognizant about it. So it's not just about triggering copycat suicides. This kind of coverage also oversimplifies mental health struggles. I saw many reporters asking friends of this teenager, did she look depressed? Was she feeling depressed? Did she tell you that she felt depressed? These are problematic questions, reductive actually, because there is no one way that people who go through depression look like, feel like, speak like. Yes, there are verbal cues, there are other kinds of cues which people around them can understand and react to. But to reduce it to, did she look depressed? Did she say she's depressed? Did she speak it to you? That is so wrong, and it sends a wrong message. And it's not just about what happened in Vijay Antony's daughter's case. Remember when Sushant Singh Rajput died, how Hindi and English news channels went berserk for days, not even days, I think weeks and months. They were continuously asking things like, but he didn't look depressed. He shared photographs from parties. He was happy. He was tweeting. So many assumptions were made. Now, you may ask me, what if Sushant Singh Rajput was indeed murdered? Should the coverage not have happened? Should we have not questioned? Of course. If these TV anchors strongly believed that Sushant Singh Rajput was murdered, they should have questioned it, but in a better manner. Not by asking things like, did he look depressed to you? Did he speak to you as if he was depressed? This cannot solve any problem, right? I specifically remember one anchor showing pictures of the news, the room, how it looked, and said, this could not have been the way that he died. That is so triggering. In our quest for justice for one person, we are doing disservice to a lot of mental health professionals who have done quite a bit to ensure that the conversations around mental health happens in this country. We are doing a great disservice to all those people who face troubles, who are trying to get over it. So what are the guidelines around suicide reporting? WHO says, do not sensationalize, do not disturb the bereaved family and others and ask questions to them. Also, do not keep repeating the same stories. WHO clearly says that you have to put out suicide helplines every time you report on suicides. Then there are the SPIRIT guidelines, or the Suicide Prevention and Implementation Research Institute. These are guidelines formulated by a couple of Indian institutes and institutes from abroad. Look at how detailed they are. I'm going to leave it on the screen for a few seconds for you to read it. These guidelines, in fact, say that a media organization should look at the newsworthiness and then think of the kind of impact. If the impact is detrimental, then don't report it. Sometimes we have to take the choice of not reporting a story. It goes to the extent of saying that respect the privacy, do not over-sensationalize, do not name the minor or use their pictures. There are very few media houses that did not use the name or the picture. I understand that television media has to use the picture because without visuals you cannot tell the story. But how many times will you repeat the same picture? How many times will you focus to the dad's face or the mother's face saying, look, they are crying. Look how upset they are. These are actually things that reporters kept saying while the suicide was being covered. Look at these guidelines very carefully. This applies to every media organization. Now, of course, it's not mandatory by law to follow it, but it's all about ethics. So if media houses do not follow these guidelines, then it is up to you, the viewer, the reader, to reject those stories. And as much as you reject, these media houses will be forced to take a decision to do ethical coverage. And that's exactly what has happened. A media company called Behindwoods has come out with a statement saying that from now on, they will not cover funerals of celebrities. They will ensure that their privacy is maintained. That's a good decision. And all other media houses should also resolve to do the same. Now, the next question before us is, what should the media have done instead? First, of course, to ensure minimal coverage. This is a question that media houses have to ask themselves. when to not cover a story, when to do a minimal coverage. Now, if you decide to cover the story, then how to do it sensitively. This is a time to speak about teen suicides and mental health awareness. There are a lot of studies in India which show that teens do have moderate depression or even acute depression. How to address it? What are the various verbal, non-verbal, behavioral cues that parents, family members, and teachers can be cognizant about? These are things that media houses should have discussed instead of making sure the cameras follow the family every minute and you have headlines which scream, Vijay Antony is upset, Vijay Antony is crying. Let's make sure that this does not happen again. Well, that's all this week in No Filter with Dhanya Rajendran. Join me next week on another topic. And do not forget, media like ours needs your support to tell your stories. So do become a member of the News Minute. We have a variety of subscription plans. You can become a member. You can access stories behind paywalls. You can get our newsletter called Power Trip every Friday, where we tell you political stories. You can also look at our videos and podcasts. Thank you very much.